Yeah, we're all set to go.
Okay. And this will be live streamed, okay, on YouTube, just so you know. So it's being recorded, it's on YouTube. And we push it out, letting families know if they were not able to attend. They can go to YouTube, our YouTube channel.
I lost my ability to pin Delia. I think she would have to speak for me to be able to get her back. What did I do?
Don't worry.
I think I did the same thing as you, Stephanie.
Yeah, no, don't worry. I think we'll be good.
Oh, I got her back. Sorry.
Yeah, okay.
Danielle, did you get her back?
I did.
Okay.
Okay, so we're going to get started. Good evening, everyone. My name is Janet Pichardo. I'm the Director of Family and Community Engagement for the Providence School Department. Thank you so much for joining us today. Our Parent Academy session is Parenting During the Pandemic. So thank you so much for joining us. Los padres que están con nosotros, gracias por asistir a nuestra Academia para Padres. Nuestro tema de esta noche va a ser crianza durante la pandemia. Entonces, gracias por asistir. And so before we get started, I am going to go through some norms, some basic norms, just to make sure that everyone that's joining us this evening will understand how the format will be. And specifically, also our families who need Spanish translation. So I will right away go into the first norm. Para los padres que necesitan traducción, por favor, si miran hacia abajo de su pantalla, van a ver el globo, interpretation. Entonces, cuando hagan clic a este icono, por favor, van a mirar dos opciones, inglés o español. Escojan español para que entonces puedan entrar al canal donde la señora Delia Rodríguez Mazjuán nos va a ayudar con la interpretación de hoy. Entonces, la presentación de hoy va a ser completamente en inglés, pero si entran a ese canal en español, Delia va a ayudarle con la interpretación. Gracias. If you are joining the meeting again for our Spanish-speaking families with a tablet or phone, you have to press the three dots and you'll find the interpretation there. Para los padres que tal vez están con nosotros con tableta o teléfono, por favor, también otra manera que pueden encontrar el icono o el canal para la traducción en español. Si miran tres puntitos, también en su pantalla, pueden entrar ahí y también escoger el idioma inglés, el idioma en español. So in terms of interaction with our webinar, we are asking families that you have two different options. You can write in your question in the icon Q&A. If you look at the very bottom of your screen, you'll find Q&A. Please click there and write in your question. We will then read your question out loud, and our presenters will go ahead and respond to them. If you prefer to raise your hand to ask the question out loud, all you have to do again is look at the very bottom of your screen and go to raise hand where you see the little hand, and just click there and you'll be able to ask your question out loud. We will go ahead and ask you to unmute yourself because we can't unmute you. So it'll be important that you're ready once we call your name. So again, we'll call your name first and then we will ask you to unmute yourself. If anyone asks a question in Spanish, I will go ahead and state the information in Spanish, but then I will translate the question in English, and Delia will go ahead and translate it into Spanish for our Spanish-speaking families. You will also see at the very bottom of your screen the chat. So the chat is disabled. We do not have it enabled. You won't be able to write anything in the chat, but you will see some information in there. Perhaps our presenters, if they need to share any information, a link or so, they can go ahead and just enter information there. But we will also use it also to just, to send some reminders. So some of these norms, if you want to ask a question, you can go ahead and write your question in the Q&A and remind you in that way. And I will write that information in English and in Spanish. But also, you have the option to raise your hand, and we'll go into that as well. So I will put that in writing in the chat so that it'll serve as a reminder for you all. So what we're going to do is we're going to get started, but I want to just let everyone know, please, as you're watching or as you're listening to our presenters, what we'd like for you to do is just, we want to wait till the end of the presentation to take questions and answers. I mean, Q&As. So what we're asking you to do is just, if you can have a piece of paper with you, so that way you don't forget your question as you hear the presentation. So we want to make sure that you know that this is the way that we're going to run our webinar today. But if you also raise your hand, just keep your hands raised. You can just click the raised hand to actually raise your hand. But if you decide you decide that you don't have a question anymore, because now throughout the presentation, the question might have been answered. So you want to go ahead and just click raise hand again, and that will bring your hand down. It'll just turn off the hand. Okay. So basically those are our norms. We're going to try to answer as many questions as we can at the very end. All right. Thank you so much. Let me go on to the next screen. And one last reminder in terms of our norms. So as parents, you probably have gone into the different Zooms where you see everyone's faces on your screen. But in actuality, this is a webinar. So you will only see those of us that are here. We are the panelists, right? So we are just making sure we're kind of, again, supporting our presenters, Stephanie and Danielle, who will be sharing the information, this wonderful information with you all in a few minutes. So again, it's just to give you an idea that you won't see everyone that's on the call. We do have about 19 folks that are on the call right now. So we're really happy to see that. And slowly we'll see that that number should be growing, because we just sent out a reminder for folks with the link. And so again, just a reminder, you are all muted. But if you decide you want to ask your questions later out loud, please just keep your hands raised. And one last reminder, we do giveaways at the very end of our presentation. So we will let Stephanie and Danielle, share, a last highlight. And then once they exit our session, we will move into our giveaways, okay? And these are our giveaways. So we have family 4-pack free admission tickets. We have 4 to the Roger Williams Park Zoo because we're getting into the spring. We were able to receive some donations from the park, and so we were so thrilled about that. And we also have some Walmart gift cards. So this is gonna be like the Wheel of Fortune at the very end. Okay, so make sure that you stay with us till the very end. All righty. So yeah. So let me just stop sharing. All righty, so Stephanie and Danielle, please take it away.
Thank you so much. Yeah, so thank you, Janet, for that introduction. And Stephanie and I are clinicians who support the mental health of little kiddos specifically, but some big kids too. And we were so excited to be asked to do this presentation and to be able to present this to all of you. And we picked an interesting title because we actually did a presentation series last summer addressing how the pandemic had impacted daily life then when we were discussing returning to schools and returning to daycares. And that was kind of on everybody's minds last summer. And we found ourselves referencing the new normal quite a bit. And, that meant finding a new normal, adjusting to the new normal. And in thinking about this presentation, we were reflecting that we're in a really different place now than we were last summer, but it's still not quite normal. And we may never be back to normal completely. So in thinking about this presentation, we wanted to focus on how to adapt to another new normal, or at least a new-ish normal-ish. So that's why we named it Finding Another New-ish Normal-ish. So, and of course, the pandemic has been kind of this unstoppable and unignorable force in all of our lives since last March. And the impacts are something that affect us and our kids and our parenting daily in big and in small ways. There are so many unknowns. First, about the virus itself, how to manage it, how to keep ourselves safe, And now a big focus on the unknowns of what our summer will look like with kids, what the next school year will look like, and how this will continue to impact our worlds and the worlds of our children. There are also constant transitions to manage, being virtual with school last spring, and then working to have kids go back to school in person, parents working from home or working in person with new rules about wearing masks and social distancing, lessening the amount of people that can work on a work shift, all sorts of things that we've had to work to transition between. We're also working to reacclimate going places in person, seeing people, family and friends, maybe seeing grandparents for the first time in over a year. And there's also reestablishing a sense of safety and normalcy for ourselves and for our kids. We spent a year telling kids that they needed to wash their hands and it might not be safe to play on the playground. They needed to keep a mask on. They needed to keep their fingers away from their eyes, all sorts of things. And all of that focus and emphasis on safety and how we keep everybody healthy. And now there's some big shifts around, it is safe to go back to school in person. And, we can see some people and play on the playground. So reestablishing what it means to be safe and healthy. And finally, changing our expectations. So the pandemic threw a wrench in everybody's lives, to put it mildly, and forced us to re-examine our expectations of our kids and what we are able to do as grown-ups, and what we should expect from our kids, managing all of this stress and uncertainty right alongside us. So we wanted to start with what's been on your mind. And we wanted to ask you to participate in a few polls. So the first poll is going to ask you to rate your stress level on a scale from 1 to 10. 10 being the highest amount of stress you've ever experienced in your life, and 1 being just kind of an easy day. So we'll let everybody respond. The second poll, if you scroll down, asks you to talk about all of the worries or wonders you might notice impacting your parenting, including things like, am I safe? Is my child safe? Is my community safe? What will the summer look like? What will next school year look like? What is and is not safe to do? How do I support my child? And what will be the long-term impact of the pandemic on my child? So check for number 2, check all of the wonders and worries you might have right now that are impacting your parenting. And Janet, I'll let you tell us when people look like they're done filling this out.
Yes, actually, Natalie, you can let us know once we're at 50% or 60%.
Okay, no problem. We're currently at 27 right now.
Okay. I'm sure that there are other worries and wonders you might be thinking about as well, but we could only put 10 choices.
So we're at about 57, so I'm just going to end it and then I'll share
Okay.
the
Great. Okay. So this is really interesting. It looks like there are people who are feeling not so stressed right now. There are some people who feel kind of in the middle, and then we got 1-8. So kind of what we could expect, that there's a range of levels of stress being experienced, and it might change day to day for you and for your family. So today might be an easy day and tomorrow's a little bit stressful, or maybe today has been good and you're not feeling so stressed right now. It also looks like we got at least 4 or 5 people saying that they are stressed about almost all of the things that we listed here, with what will the next school year look like being the highest voted current worry or wonder. And, you know, am I safe? Is my child safe? Is my community safe? What will the summer look like? All of those being hit. So these, it seems like these resonated, which is good to hear, because we plan to address what we can on this list tonight. And we want to acknowledge that wherever your stress level might be, these are probably things you're at least wondering about, if not worrying about. Yeah. So thank you. Thank you for sharing that poll. So why we're asking about your stress and what you might be wondering and worrying about is because children need your calm to find their calm. So, you know, we're talking about the impact of the pandemic on children and on parenting, and how do I parent during a pandemic? And all of that starts with you as the parent. We know that children are sensitive to the stress experienced by their caregivers, whether you're talking about it at home or your children sense it because your behavior or the way that you're reacting to them has changed. We know that kids are really sensitive to that and pick up on that. And it can be difficult as a grown-up to be calm when the world is so stressful right now for a number of reasons, the pandemic being a big one. So as a parent, how can you manage your thoughts to help manage your feelings and your behaviors? How can we work on thinking about your thoughts so that that can calm you and in turn calm your child? So given that there is so much going on in the world right now that we can't control, we may understandably be having some unhelpful thoughts that pop up about ourselves, the world around us, our work, our kids, our parenting. And sometimes it feels like we don't have control over those thoughts, but we do. And the greatest weapon against our stress is our ability to choose one thought over the other. So choosing a more helpful thought rather than letting ourselves kind of think about and stay stuck in an unhelpful thought. And so how do we do that? So our thoughts and our feelings and our behaviors are all connected, and they all impact each other. So if you think, my kid won't stop crying, he's driving me crazy, you are likely to feel frustrated or irritated or upset. And in turn, you are likely to act in a way that might be yelling or getting frustrated with your child or even ignoring your child because you just need some space, which again is all an understandable reaction to an unhelpful thought like, my kid's driving me crazy. So what we encourage you to try, and it's difficult and it takes some time, but we'd encourage you to try thinking instead, my kid is having a really hard time. He needs my calm so he can feel safe and calm. And with that more helpful thought, you are likely to feel calmer, in control, and you are likely to maybe problem solve with your child about why he's crying. Maybe you can offer some comfort if you're in that headspace. So just shifting that a little bit, just acknowledging that you've had an unhelpful thought and trying to shift it to a helpful thought can help us calm ourselves down enough to then calm our children down. So another example is if your child just winds up and smacks you, you might think, she did that on purpose. And that's really frustrating. So you might feel angry and frustrated and over it. And so you might be likely to then yell at her, overreact a little bit, think that if she did it on purpose, that that should be met with some sort of punishment. Maybe she gets sent to her room. So instead of that unhelpful thought, we're inviting you to try to shift to a helpful thought like, oh, clearly she's needing some attention, and I can help teach her how to get it in appropriate ways. So she can learn how to get my attention in appropriate ways. And then you're likely to feel calmer, more in control, right? You've identified what she was trying to do. You're focusing on her intentions instead of her actions. And you might be more likely to offer emotion words. I see how you're feeling. You might need some help. Help your child understand that she doesn't have to hit you to get your attention. And maybe encourage her to consider ways that she could get your attention that don't include hitting you. So just that small shift can sometimes make a big difference. So just a couple more examples. If you think, my child, she's out of control and I don't know what I can do to help her, you might think instead, wow, my child is really struggling and I'm actually the perfect person to help her calm down. And now you might feel empowered to be on her side and to help her and to brainstorm together about what she can do next. And you can behave calmly. You can respond to your child with calm, which, as we've discussed, encourages your child to be calm. Another example is, my kid is so anxious and won't stay at school. I might have to keep leaving work and I could lose my job. Some parents are experiencing frequent phone calls from school, talking about tummy aches and headaches and anxiety, and having to leave work to go pick up your child in the middle of the day is stressful. And a totally understandable thought might be, I could lose my job if I have to keep going to pick up my child. And you might think instead, my child is communicating that they are stressed and that they need me. And now you might feel like you've got this under control and you can work on this together. And again, then you might behave more calmly. And we recognize that all of this is easier said than done and that it takes practice. So don't expect that overnight you'll suddenly be able to think all of the helpful thoughts and none of the unhelpful thoughts. This is just an invitation to start considering, oh, I just thought my child's out of control. She's driving me crazy. I remember that presentation and they encouraged me to think a more helpful thought. That's where it starts, is just acknowledging that we are having some unhelpful thoughts that maybe we can work to shift to be a little more helpful. And we know that there are a lot of things that impact our thoughts, our feelings, and our behaviors, again, about ourselves, but also our parenting. And not only is the pandemic impacting how we think and feel about ourselves, our circumstances, and our parenting, but things like social comparisons are also rampant online and in the real world. It's easy to fall into the trap of comparing ourselves to other people, to other parents, be it kind of that perfect mommy blog on Instagram that makes us think that our 6-year-olds should know how to make homemade bread and keep themselves calm during quarantine without screen time, or bigger, more pervasive and historical questions of safety and equity and power and privilege that beg the question, is my child even safe in my community when they go to school, out in the world? Are they being judged differently because of where we live or because of the color of our skin? And the pandemic has really highlighted the systemic and institutional inequality and injustice that, while always present before the pandemic and before 2020 was especially brought to life on social media last summer during protests and news coverage of everything going on. So these layers are worth noting and considering. So when we're facing a deadly pandemic, how does what's going on in the world and what you're seeing online on Instagram and on social media further impact how you feel about yourself and how you are thinking about your parenting, and then how you're behaving? And how does that impact your well-being and your child's well-being, and how you see your parenting and your child's behavior? And those are some big questions that we don't have answers to, but it's worth noting that there are a lot of things going on in the world that do impact us and how we think and feel and behave. And all of that kind of layers onto each other to then set us up maybe for some unrealistic expectations of ourselves, of our parenting partners, other caregivers in our child's life, and of our children. And sometimes that means that our expectations are too high, like we're expecting our 6-year-old to decorate cupcakes without making a mess, or that our expectations are too low. So we are not enforcing rules or boundaries or setting limits with our children because we're not expecting anything of them. When in actuality, there's something in the middle, there's some balance in the middle. That's probably where we want to aim. So keeping in mind our expectations of ourselves, other caregivers in the household, and our children. So we heard in the last poll about what's on your mind, and now we're curious what you think might be on your kids' minds. So we have a poll that asks you to rate what you think your child's stress might be. So on a scale from 1 to 10, again, 10 being the highest they've ever experienced. And then we also have a question about the worries and wonders that might be on your child's mind. So what do you think they might be worrying or wondering about, including, are they safe? Is their family safe? Is the community safe? What will the summer look like? What will the next school year look like? What is and is not safe to do? Why do the rules keep changing? Who is safe for me to turn to? Is it my fault that we got or had COVID? And will things ever go back to normal? And again, there might be some other worries and wonders that are on your children's minds, but we can only put 10 options. So we'll wait until we have about 50%, and then maybe we can publish the results. Great. Okay, so it looks like people are, again, spread as far as what stress level they feel their kids are experiencing right now, with some people feeling like their children are not stressed, which is great, and some people feeling like their kids are pretty stressed, like at an 8 or a 9. And then in terms of things that they are wondering and worrying about, it looks like the biggest one is, will things ever go back to normal? And there's also some big worries about what will the next school year look like, and that's similar to what you as parents are wondering and worrying about. Am I safe? Is my family safe? Kind of understandable worries given what's going on in the world right now. Yeah, absolutely. And this is what we're seeing, you know, in a bigger sense with kids all over, is that there are some big worries about, will things ever return to normal? Can I expect that my life, you know, before the pandemic will return at some point? And those are some really tough questions and worries and wonders for kids to have, because we just really don't know. We don't know if life will look like it used to look. And that's, again, why we titled this presentation The New-ish Normal-ish, because it's things are not back to normal, and they may never be. So thank you all. That's very helpful. So we know that children manage their stress with your help. So they need parents, like we talked about earlier, to be calm so that children can learn how to manage their stress and be calm themselves. And children express themselves and show us that they're stressed through their emotions and their behaviors, especially before they're good at or effective at communicating their needs to us. So if you've ever asked a 6-year-old, you know, how are you feeling? You might get fine or good, but maybe not a range of emotion words that would be helpful to cue you in as a parent to how they're feeling specifically. So you might ask yourself, what is my child trying to communicate to me through their emotions and their behaviors? Are they hungry? Are they tired? Are they stressed? Are they bored? Are they upset? All of those things. So you might see a stressed out face and hands on the forehead. And, you know, this kid might be telling you that they feel fine, but their body language tells, their behaviors tell us something different. This kid looks stressed. Your kid might be hanging back a little bit more, looking like they are not as engaged in things. And that might tell us that they're feeling a little reluctant and shy and maybe have worries. Or your child might be a little disinterested and disengaged, and that might tell us that they're bored. And every kid shows that they are feeling stressed in different ways, and you're the expert on your kid, so you'll know best when they are showing signs that are suggesting to you that they're stressed. But some common things that you might look out for are mood swings. So happy to sad to angry really quickly, kind of that 0 to 60 mood swings. Behavioral acting out. For younger kids, this might look like tantruming, hitting, and screaming. For older kids, this might look like bullying of peers or younger siblings, arguing with you, talking back, those kinds of things. You might see changes in sleep. So younger kids might be returning to taking naps. Maybe they've outgrown that, but now they're returning to taking naps. Younger kids and older kids might have some nightmares. Older kids might be sleeping more, sleeping less. So any kind of change in the sleep routine. Regression in toilet training or bedwetting. So children who were previously toilet trained might start to have accidents. Even older kids might have some bedwetting if they're really stressed. Somatic complaints. So tummy aches and headaches and, you know, I don't feel so good. Those kinds of common complaints. Use of comforting habits. So thumb sucking or hair twirling, fidgeting, sucking on blankets, things like that, that would be comforting to a child. Changes in eating habits. So again, one way or the other, suddenly they're not eating as much or suddenly they're eating a lot. Any sort of change you might note from their baseline. And then changes in interest. So suddenly if they're not interested so much in things that they really liked before, that might be a sign that they're stressed.
Okay, thank you so much, Danielle. That was super helpful. My name is Stephanie, and I'm going to take it from here. I thought I would start by sharing with you that I was practicing one of the skills that Danielle mentioned around challenging and changing your thoughts. And so I was thinking about the stressor that we don't know if things are going to ever go back to normal, to the way they were. And I was thinking, well, one of the things that we've learned is things actually weren't so normal before the pandemic. And some things are just different, and some things are even better than they were. So that is the way I'm going to think about things going back to normal. Some things I'd like to go back to the way they were, but some things may be different, and some things may be even better. So that's where I thought I would start. What I'd like to move to is talking more about how to help kiddos manage the stressors that they're having. We saw in the poll that there's a range in terms of how much stress kiddos are experiencing. And there's really, we like to capture it within 3 essential areas that kiddos really can be helped with when they've experienced something that's unpredictable or they've experienced stressful events. The first is routine. We all thrive on routine. And unpredictability is stressful for all of us. When the world isn't predictable, we feel out of control. And we all, kiddos in particular, need predictability in order to feel a sense of security or a sense of safety. They do better when they know what's going to happen next. So there are lots of things we've learned, for sure, that we can't control. We certainly can't control everything. But what we can do is try to find as much consistency as we can where we can. And we'll talk about that more. The second is reassurance. Kiddos need reassurance that they're safe. They need reassurance that their emotions are valid. They're okay to feel what they feel, that it's okay to feel what they feel, and that lots of people are feeling the feels right now. And they also need reassurance that you're going to be there for them to meet their needs. The third is regulation, and we're going to be talking a lot about that tonight as well. How to help kiddos find their calm. We can go about doing that. Can you switch the slide, please? Thank you. So going back to talking in detail about routines. So routines, this was a biggie, hot button topic at the beginning of the pandemic, and the need to establish new routines. We had routines in place, and then they all went poof, and we had to establish new routines. The reality is they kept changing. Schools, daycares, services stopped. Then they started virtually. Then they went hybrid. Now they've started to be more consistent. All of these changes can be really challenging for kiddos, and partially because they're challenging for families. All of these changes impact our routine. And so the question is, how do we create predictability and routine at home when the world is unpredictable? We have a few pointers about that. Danielle, if you could switch my slide. So we have some reminders. The first reminder is about meals. Cute little picture here. So meals are really great anchors for children and for their schedule. And so we invite you to think about having a predictable time each day for breakfast, lunch, and dinner, that they happen the same time every day, and whenever possible that you eat as a family. This can be a time where you can connect with each other, and children will feel much more secure when they can predict that they're going to see you and have time to talk and connect with you every day. It also is really helpful when you can create a shape or a routine around your meal. So for example, have a tradition. Every night at dinner, we talk about the high of the day and we talk about the low of the day. Or we talk about something that we go around and we share, something that made us happy, something that made us sad, something that made us mad, and something that made us proud. So just having a question that you come to every day to share out. It's also great when you can make it fun. Playing games during dinner is a great way to keep everybody there and everybody present. Play I Spy. Play, I'm going on a picnic, and what am I going to bring? Skip counting. There's lots of examples of games that you can play where you can still focus on eating your meal, yet come together, create traditions, and create connections within your family. The second one is around scheduling free time and breaks. We are so overburdened right now with responsibilities, and it's really important that we take care of our needs to have breaks and not go all the time. And I think that's also important when you think about young children and having appropriate expectations for how long can they work hard and be focused and persist at an activity. Them to be engaged in an activity before they need a break. For slightly older kids, 10 to 20, have you heard? It's telling me I'm on. Can you hear me? I hope so. 10 to 20 minutes for slightly older kiddos before they need a care. The third is family time or special time, not dissimilar to mealtime. Danielle, can you add family time? Thank you. So recommend that families find 5 to 10 minutes a day where they can spend time involved in child-led play, opportunities for their kiddos to choose the activity, their kiddos to make the rules.
I think it's Stephanie's Wi-Fi, maybe.
The play.
Stephanie, your Wi-Fi.
Oh, I'm sorry. Uh-oh.
Yeah, I think it's your Wi-Fi. It keeps coming in and out. But go ahead. I mean, it's
Okay.
consistent, then it goes, but it just started. So, but go ahead. Let's see.
It's consistently inconsistent while I'm talking about routines. So I'm hoping that it'll get better. Research shows that children actually act out less when they can predict that they'll get 5 to 10 minutes of special time with their parents every day. Why? Because children act out to get attention. So if they know that they're going to get it for opportunities to play, they'll be less likely to do things to act out to get the attention. 5-10 minutes is all it takes a day to make a big impact on behavior and their sense of safety. And the last is sleep. A lot of times we see kiddos' dysregulated behavior when their behavior is out of control is really a sign that they're exhausted. They're tired, they're not getting enough sleep. So it's really important to sit and think about and do a little work around trying to know how many hours of sleep should my child be getting every day and work towards that goal. Having a sleep routine. You start it at the same time every day. You do things the same way every night. You sleep in the same bed every night. All of those create a sense of safety and security. Having a calm, quiet activity, taking away electronics before the transition to bedtime. These are all things that will help support your kiddo to be successful at falling and staying asleep. So, and that goes for parents too, that when we have enough sleep, we're way more likely to have those positive, constructive thoughts and to manage our feelings when they come up. All right, so a little bit more on routines. So when I say, I've repeated several times, consistency is really important. The reality though is consistency doesn't have to mean over control. We recommend or we invite you to offer choices when you can. So for example, it's time for you to get ready for school. Do you want to pack your lunch first or do you want to get dressed first? Or please start working on your homework. Do you want to start with math or do you want to start with spelling? The message is that this is the time that we're going to be doing this thing, but you have control or choice around how it happens. Kiddos are way more likely to follow the routine and to comply with your commands when they're given some choice within that. It's also really helpful to give first then reminders. First, we're going to do your homework and then you can watch TV. First, you're going to wash your hands, and then we're going to have dinner. Just everything is a first then. So kiddos know what's going to happen next. And when kiddos know what's going to happen next, and by the way, if it's a great thing that's happening next, they're way more likely to feel safe and secure and follow the routine. Whenever possible, let your kiddo know in advance if the routine is going to change. That also promotes a sense of security. So for example, today, Papa's going to pick you up at school because I have a doctor's appointment. Let them know that in advance. Or I know we usually go to the park on Wednesdays, but it looks like it's going to storm today. So we're going to go home and play a game at home. So make sure that you forecast those changes in routines and let your kiddo know. It's also important, to the extent to which it's possible, that all the adults have the same expectations, have the same rules, have the same routines for their kiddos. With that consistency, kiddos will understand their world better. Again, knowing the rules, knowing the expectations, knowing what's going to happen when is actually going to teach kiddos or prevent kiddos from testing or acting out. If the same thing happens the same way and you respond in a predictable way, they're less likely to act out. Whenever possible, pregame. And what I mean by pregame is when you're going somewhere different or when you think something's going to be hard, set the expectations up in advance so your kiddo knows in advance what to do. So let's say you haven't seen grandma in a year and you're going to be seeing her for the first time. She's probably going to want a big hug. She's probably going to want you to take off your mask so that you can show her all the teeth that have grown in or all the teeth you've lost in the last year. So it would be really helpful for a child to know in advance what are the things that are okay to do, what are the things that are not okay to do, and to have a plan of what to do. To say, hey, grandma, why don't we clink elbows, or why don't we give a wave instead of giving a hug, if that would be what would be more comfortable. So having a plan in advance of what to do, and also talking in terms of what can be done rather than just all the things you can't do. So we're going to be going to the park after school. When we get there, we'll look at the playground and see, are there lots of kiddos on the play structures that don't have masks? If that's the case, we can do other things at the park. We can run around, we can play basketball, we can climb trees, we can play soccer. So focus on the things we can do rather than things that we can't do. And as we transition from school to the summer, thinking about where do we need to establish new routines and to practice those in advance. So we all know what to do, we all know what we need, and we have that set up before we're in a rush and need to do it. Okay, could you change slides, please? Also really important, I think Danielle touched on this a little bit, but is the importance of following through with our expectations. And setting clear limits with our kiddos. That can feel yucky, especially in times of stress or when your child is struggling. But it's really important that you be consistent in not only setting expectations, but following through when your child meets your expectations, but also when your child doesn't meet your expectation. That there's a predictable response when the rule is not followed. And that consistency in how you respond will communicate to your child, I'm in control and you will be okay. When you act in inconsistent ways, and sometimes you say, oh, that's no big deal, don't worry about it. And sometimes you take away the tablet for a week, or sometimes you send a child to their room when there's a different response every time there's the same behavior. It communicates to your child, I am out of control and I can't handle this. So the more you can have a plan and the more you can be consistent and respond in the same ways, the more you're saying, I'm in control, we'll be okay. And you're modeling that self-control to your kiddo. Okay. Danielle? Reassurance, coming back to that. I think it can be really hard sometimes to think about finding the right balance between structure and consistency, as I said earlier, and comfort and flexibility, especially when we're in these difficult times. We tend to lean on the side of comfort and flexibility. letting our kiddo into our bed from time to time because they're feeling anxious and can't sleep. The reality is we know if we let them in our bed once, what's going to happen? They're going to be there every night. So we need to set a limit and be consistent. If we allow pull-ups just this one time, it's going to offset our goals around potty training. So we need to be really thoughtful around where can we be flexible? Where can it make sense to be flexible? And where do we need to be a little bit more consistent in the limits we set? So how can we introduce some flexibility into an established routine? And part of it is by creating new routines. So for example, my son was pushing a lot to be sleeping in bed with mom and dad. And we decided, and I did it once, and then I realized when he came back the next night that I was guilty of the error. And so we created what we call crazy sleepy night. So what he really wants is to sleep with me. And so once a week on a Saturday night, we have crazy sleeping night, and we find somewhere fun or silly to sleep that night. In the summertime, it's in the backyard in a tent. In the wintertime, it may be that we put the couch cushions on the floor and sleep in the living room. But it's a way that we can create a new tradition, a new routine that's somewhat flexible, but within the same consistent structure that we have. The same as doing family activities, but we get to choose. Are we going to go bike riding? Are we going to go hiking? Are we going to play soccer? Letting our kiddos have some sense of choice and us being some flexible about that, yet still having consistency. And understanding at the same time, extra snuggles, extra time together, and extra comfort is really needed right now. To the extent to which that's true will really depend on your kiddo and reading their cues. Danielle had a nice list of things that tell us whether or not our child is feeling stressed. Are they acting out? Are they being more quiet to themselves than usual? Are they more clingy? Are you seeing more trouble with sleeping? All the things that Danielle talked about, those are cues that are telling us that our child has need for more reassurance. Okay, thank you. Next. So regulation being the third leg of that stool. It's important that we validate our kiddos' feelings and validate things are hard. Things are different. Things are always changing. This is not normal and it's difficult. And we as adults, as Danielle mentioned earlier, we need to find our calm in order to help them find their calm. So model what calm, regulated behavior looks like. So what does that mean for adults? Take space when you need to, take deep breaths before you speak, eat healthy, sleep, take care of yourself. And think about that every day is a new opportunity for practice. We're going to make mistakes. We're all human. We're going to get upset. We're not going to think those helpful thoughts. And so we're not going to have the more calm responses. These things happen. And when they do, it's important that we take responsibility for that. Say, gosh, I messed up. I wish I had done this, or I wish I had done that. And to apologize to our child. I'm really sorry that I got so angry when that happened. I'm going to work hard next time to take my deep breaths and calm down and think before I say something. I mentioned sleep. That's a big one, not just for our kiddos, but for us as well. It's also important that we check in with our schools. What are they doing to teach regulation in the schools? Can we use the same strategies? Can we use the same language? Are they talking about the zones of regulation? Are they encouraging children to be like tiny turtle and go into their turtle shells and take deep breaths? Are they teaching the kiddos yoga and mindfulness? So talk to the teachers and find out what is being done in school. And it bears repeating, asking yourself, what is the child's behavior communicating about their feelings? So behavior is a form of communication. It communicates what a child is feeling, what a child is thinking, and what a child needs. And so think of their behavior as a clue. So some examples of that. Next slide. So let's say your child is told no when they are asked to play their Switch. And your child screams, "I hate you," and she slams her bedroom door. She's telling you something. But what we all tend to do is to respond to the behavior that's in front of us. So we might say something like, you get out here now, young lady. It's not okay to scream at me like that. Do you hear me? You have lost your bike for the rest of the day. We're angry and we're seeing this behavior and it's disrespectful and we're mad. And so we respond big. And what is a child likely to do? Destroy her room. Get angry in some way. Why? Because the behavior that she had was communicating a feeling, and that feeling was not attended to. Instead, our behavior led to an even bigger behavioral response. Or the child is having a blast playing with craft materials in the house, but he's so messy and careless that mom takes away the materials and he begins to cry. Mom might say something like, why are you crying? If you hadn't made such a mess, I wouldn't be taking away your crafting materials. Next time, be a little more responsible. What's the likely response from the child? A full-blown tantrum. If they had been crying before and now they're throwing the paintbrushes and kicking the tubes of paint and really saying, you did not hear me when I said that I was sad. Okay, next slide. So instead, we want to think in terms of listening to what our child is telling us, watching their behavior and really hearing them and acknowledging that feeling with a word, giving that feeling a name and offering a way to cope with that. So for example, I see you're really disappointed that we didn't get a treat when we were at the store. I'm disappointed too. I would have liked a treat today. You can say maybe next time, or you can think about the snack you want to have when we get home. So I see your behavior. Your behavior is telling me you're disappointed. You normalize it, you give it a name, and then you think of a coping statement. Maybe next time, or think about what you can have when you get home. I'm not going to get too much into positive opposites, other than a positive opposite is the behavior that you want instead of what the behavior that the child is doing. So, for example, you didn't like it when she grabbed your toy away, and that made you really mad in response to a child screaming when someone took their toy away. That made you really mad. Let's take some deep breaths to calm our body down. Now that you're calm, you can use your words to say, I didn't like that. Or use your words and ask me if you want a turn with my toy. So help your child learn what to do instead of screaming or hitting to get what they want. Calm down and think of another choice. So let's go back to our 2 examples that we came up with before. So when the child stomps off to her room and says, I hate you, and slams her bedroom door, if we listen to what they're feeling and we give it a name and a coping strategy, we might say something like, I can see you're really mad that I wouldn't let you play your Switch right now. When you use a calm voice, I can understand better how you feel, and we can find something else to do. So you're not saying, okay, you can play your Switch. What you are saying is, I know that kind of stinks for you. You really wanted to do it, but let's calm down and find something else to do. And in the second example with the art materials, I know you're sad that you lost your craft materials. I bet tomorrow you'll use them responsibly so you can keep them out. So rather than responding to the behavior, responding to what the behavior is telling you about what the child is feeling. Because oftentimes just feeling heard is enough to help the child regulate and be able to reset and make better choices. Okay. I am feeling disappointed because I see that my time is up and that I am not able to go through the rest of my examples. But I'm feeling relieved to know that copies of this are available and you can see them at your own time. So with that, I will say thank you and give the mic back to Danielle. Oh, sorry, but I'll also say first that these are just some examples of books that you might read with your child about feelings. So what we recommend is that emotions just become part of your daily language. You talk about how you feel. So you might say something like, gosh, I'm frustrated. I've been trying to get this lid off this jar and I just can't do it. Or I'm pretty happy today. The sun is shining and I got to work without a bunch of stress. I'm feeling good today. So talking about your own feelings and reading books where there's lots of opportunities to talk about the feelings that the children are having in books is a way to just normalize talking about feelings, and not just negative feelings, but our positive feelings too. I am proud of myself that I got through this and I said to myself, I could do it, and I did it. And now for real, I'm going to pass it back to Danielle.
Thank you. And I will say too, if you're interested in these books, a lot of them are on YouTube being read by kindergarten teachers and other great, awesome YouTube people out there. So you can look them up tonight if you're interested.
In fact, I saw many in Spanish as well.
That's true. Yes, many of them are available in Spanish. Yeah, so to wrap up, we know that something that you all talked about that is a worry or a wonder of yours as parents, and that you think your kids are probably worrying and wondering about is the summer and what that's going to look like. We know last summer was tough. It looked really different than what we were hoping. And that this summer will look different too, in positive ways, right? We're making progress in ways that are really helpful for kids to socialize and get together and have those activities that they like to do that they probably didn't get to do last summer. But it's still going to have its challenges. We also want to remind you that it's not that all of a sudden you have an anxious child. Some kids do have anxiety, but what we're seeing right now is behaviors and reactions from kids because we as the grown-ups keep changing the rules. So we keep telling kids that it's not safe to go to the playground, and now it is safe. And last summer there was caution tape all over the playground, and now they can go on it. You can be without a mask in front of some people. You have to wear your mask in front of other people. Wash your hands. You know, we keep kind of changing what kids are able to do and what the rules are. And kids have a really concrete way of thinking developmentally. That's just how kids are. So when we tell them a rule and we set that as an expectation and then we change it, it takes a while. It takes a while to shift and to process. And for that to make sense to kids. So keep talking about the rules and what is safe to do in your house and outside of your house and what your expectations are for all of that. We want to acknowledge that some of your goals for your kids over the summer might be to stay busy, to reduce screen time, especially if your kid has spent a lot of time on the computer, re-socializing with friends and family, and reacclimating to activities and sports. And you might be thinking about how to undo some of the screen time routines that you might have had in the past. So again, set expectations, be clear with your kids about what your expectations are, create a new routine for over the summer that better reflects your goals. And again, how do you support your kids in those goals? Use the things that we talked about tonight: routine, regulation, reassurance, and also that emotion coaching piece that Stephanie was just talking about. Really help your kids understand their feelings, and that will help you stay calm and them stay calm. All right. So now we're at the questions portion. Really powered through that last little bit.
Okay. So again, we just want to remind everyone, please use the Q&A. If you look at the very bottom of your screen, you'll see the icon Q&A. If you haven't written down your question within Q&A, please go ahead and do that. And also, if you prefer to say your question out loud, then please raise your hand. We did have someone that had raised their hand. What I'm going to do is ask this person. Okay, Dulce. Dulce has her hands raised. Natalie, I think I can't pull her up. So if you can, okay, so she's here. Dulce, please unmute yourself. Dulce, si puede activar su micrófono. Okay. Dulce, ¿no quiere tener una pregunta, un comentario? Okay. So she does not have her hands raised anymore. Okay, let me see. We did have a question. It's in Spanish. I'm going to say it in Spanish and then read it also in English. Mi niña está llorando por cualquier cosa. ¿Qué puedo hacer para ayudarla? my little girl seems to be crying for anything or for everything. What can I do to help her?
Yeah, that's an absolutely great question. So earlier we were discussing what the behaviors that your child is engaging in might be trying to tell you about how they're feeling. So if your child is crying at everything, things that might seem small and that crying might be an overreaction, your child might be communicating to you that they're stressed or worried, and that they have some big feelings about all of that. So I would encourage you to think about how you can incorporate some of that emotion coaching piece that Stephanie was just talking about to help your child understand you're crying. That might mean that you have worries or you're sad. Maybe we can think together about what to do and what's been bothering you. So really thinking about that emotion coaching that you can do. Stephanie, do you have anything to add?
Of course. I think it's important to, I always like to use the term to be behavior detectives and to think about, when is your daughter crying? Is she crying because it tends to happen at times a day that might indicate that she's overtired or that she's hungry and needs a snack. Or that she's not feeling well. So there could be some reasons for it that have nothing to do with worry or sadness, but more to do with regulation. Or is crying something that she is doing because she's learned that it works to get attention? So sometimes that might mean that you help her to develop the words that she needs to say, "Mommy, I need a hug," or "Mommy, I'm feeling sad." And sometimes we all know this, or maybe I hope it's not just my son, but children cry to get what they want. So they cry because they want to stay up late, or they cry because they want that new shiny toy in the window of the toy store. And so in that case, your response to the crying might look very different. So we want to provide comfort and assurance and safety and predictability to our kiddos to address the stress and the worry, but we don't want to give in and give them lots of things and extra privileges and cave on the rules because of the crying, because then it becomes something instrumental that they're doing to get their needs met or their wishes met.
Okay. So we have another question. It's in Spanish. This is from Alberto. Si mi hijo viene de un día malo y fuerte de la escuela, ¿cómo puedo ayudarlo para animarlo? So if my child comes from school, not feeling good about himself or not happy, arriving from school, what can I do to cheer him up?
Another great question. Yeah. So again, in a similar vein as to what Stephanie was just talking about, I would encourage you to think about what is that behavior trying to communicate or how your child might be feeling. Because there are a lot of reasons that kids can come home stressed and not feeling well from school, either because it's been a really long day, they're not sleeping well, maybe, so they're tired, maybe they're being bullied, maybe there's some issues with friends, maybe they don't, like one of their classes. There are a lot of reasons why kids might come home not feeling well, or not feeling good about themselves. So being that behavior detective and trying to figure out with your child, what is the root of this? Why are you coming home and not feeling so well? And how can I help?
I would also encourage, if this is a pattern that it happens to a lot, to check in with your child's teacher or teachers, and use that information to help you get to the bottom of why your child is coming home with the emotions that they are. And so that can help you learn what to do in order to reset your child and set them on a different path to have a better night. And it might be starting a new routine. Where when your child comes in the door, the first thing you do is Do your 5 minutes of special time where you don't talk about anything to do with school and you just do something fun to reset the expectation of what the night will look like. Sometimes kiddos come home with sad or worry because they had a bad day at school in terms of their behavior. They got in trouble, for example. And we really encourage in that case that we let school handle behavior in school, and we let families handle behavior at home. So assume that the school handled the situation and not to give more consequences at home for things that happened at school, because that might lead them to be less likely to share with you what happened, to talk to you about their thoughts and feelings and the situation that happened. And we want to discourage that as well. So if it's a I got in trouble day, let school handle that and reset to have a good night.
So just to follow up on that response, Stephanie, so some parents may feel, okay, but if my child just told me that they had a bad day because they got in trouble, a parent's quick reaction is, okay, I need to address this with the teacher, right? But you're telling us that it's important to kind of separate. And I know that in terms of our office here, we often have our parents coming in and, very upset because something happened at the school. But then, I find myself having to tell the parent also, okay, so let's think about this. If you react a certain way, your child may not come back home another day to tell you what happened. So it's really important that you also kind of take a deep breath, even if what you're hearing is not comfortable and it's really upsetting you. Just try your best not to show it so much, because at the end of the day, once they become adolescent, teenagers, they will stop sharing because of your reaction. Can you share more on that, please? Because I think it's important for folks to understand that your emotions and your regulations too are super important and are impactful.
Mm-hmm.
Thank you, Janet, for saying that and inviting us to talk more about that. Yes, I think to be really clear, it is really important that as a parent, you do check in with the school and find out what happened, and that there would be a constant communication back and forth between the school and home. So when I say leave school at school and home at home, I don't mean that you shouldn't communicate with school. You should absolutely communicate at school. What I mean is that whatever consequence your child might get for that behavior, that if the behavior happened in school, the consequences at school. So imagine the scenario where your child comes home and tells you that they were sent to the office because they hit another child in the classroom, and you immediately put the child in timeout, or you take away screen time for the rest of the day. Problem with that is what you said, is that they'll be less likely to come home and tell you the truth, and they'll be more likely to hide things if they get another consequence on top. To add, Janet, really emphasize the really good point that you made is also that it's important that be the moments in particular where you need to find your calm, because the screaming and shouting and harshness that you might want to come out because you're so upset is going to have the opposite effect, where it's going to lead your child to be less likely to want to be open. We want our kiddos to feel that their family is their secure base, that is the place that they could go to talk about the things that are hard, to talk about the feelings that they're having, to talk about what's happening in school, and they're not going to be judged and they're not going to be punished for it. Because today it might be that it's that Johnny hit them and they hit them back, and but it could be in a few years that it's something much more serious than that. And we want our child to be able to come to us and tell us when things are happening that we need to know.
Yeah.
We do. I'm sorry, Danielle, you wanted to add?
Oh, I was just going to add that I also think that it's helpful to emotion coach around it's okay to be upset when you get home if you got in trouble at school, and to regulate as a parent around my child is obviously upset that they got in trouble. And so I need to stay regulated and take an emotion detective, behavior detective approach with the school as well, right? Not joining my child in their upset. And like Janet was saying, coming into the school and also being very dysregulated and upset, kind of trying to keep the emotion level down and saying, it's okay to be upset that you got in trouble. Now let's problem solve together around how we can avoid this in the future.
Very good. Okay, we didn't have someone that raised their hand. Hortensia, Alviso. Hortensia, ¿se puede activar su micrófono? If you can unmute.
Sí, ya la oigo.
Ok, dígame.
Mira, yo tengo 3 niños, pero el grande tenía siempre los problemas del behavior. Y entonces le daba mucho tantrum, pero yo, tú sabes, ahorita escuché la pregunta, ¿qué tú haces si el niño está llorando? Tú sabes, uno para saber que el niño está llorando puede ser muchas cosas, puede ser que está llamando la atención, pero a veces uno, tú sabes, como padre o madre se desespera, o uno le da lo primero que ellos quieren para que ellos se callen. Entonces yo tenía otro de 4 años ahora. Él le da mucho rabieta y llora así. No sé si es por llamar la atención o es porque quiere algo, pero a veces también es como, tú sabes, como tú tienes niños de diferente edad, ellos quieren lo que tiene grande, tú sabes.
Sí.
Y yo le he hecho muchas evaluaciones y me ha salido bien, que no tiene ningún problema de conducta, pero él tiene muchos problemas de comportamiento. Él mismo se agrede si se enoja. Tú sabes que
el de 4 años.
el de 4 años, que tiene 4 años.
Ok. Ok, vamos a ver lo que ella dice. Esta es tu pregunta. Tú quieres ver qué consejo ellos tienen si tú ves que este niño se agrede a él mismo también.
Sí, porque a veces puede ser, yo creo, no sé, ¿verdad? Porque todavía lo estoy evaluando a ver qué condición tenga. Pero
Okay.
no sé si es impulso, ¿sabes? Como que los impulsos que no lo puede controlar o es que lo hace por hacerlo.
Ok, déjame hacerle esa pregunta. Gracias, Hortensia.
Okay.
So mom says that she has 3 children, and they all tend to have different behaviors. The oldest one, had some behaviors, went through some tantrums, would cry, but as a parent, she recognizes that sometimes you just, you want to be helpful so that they can stop crying. So you tend to just give them what they want. And so she mentions that, but then she mentioned her 4-year-old, and she says that her 4-year-old, sometimes does cry. She has had some evaluations done with him, and she's finding though that she is not really sure if this is just impulsive behavior, but he tends to also go through some tantrums, but also to the point where kind of hurts himself as well. So she is going through a process now of evaluation, but she said, if there's anything that you can, share for advice, that she'll find that helpful.
Well, I think I'll start by saying, Hortensia, how impressed I am that you are clearly a very strong advocate for your children, and you're reaching out for help. And that is really impressive. The reality is it's very hard to know with little information about why these things are happening and what to do about them, other than 2 things that I will share, one of which is the reminder of the importance of staying calm ourselves, because we model for our kiddos how to respond to stressful situations. And they need our calm. I know we've said this many times, but they need our calm to feel like we can keep them safe, we can keep them in control, and that we can be there to help them calm down. So just the importance of keeping our cool in those situations. The other thing is that there are lots of resources out there to help families with the situations that you were describing. One of them is something that's called Project Success. If your kiddo is also having trouble in their early care and education environment in school, the 4-year-old, you can talk to his teacher, talk to his director of daycare, and seek support from a project called Success, where they do mental health consultation in childcare settings. The other service that might be helpful is we have classes where parents could come together and learn strategies for how to manage challenging behaviors like that. And those are available in English and in Spanish. And families come together once a week over the course of several weeks. And the nice thing about classes like that is parents also learn that their child is not the only child that is doing the things that you're describing, that other kiddos are doing the same things. And that can be really helpful, just to hear that we're not alone, or that it's not because we're bad parents in some way, but that there's some reason that kiddos are acting the way they are. And parents share ideas on how to support each other and manage those behaviors. And in addition to those groups, we also have, workshops, that extended workshops that you could go 1 week, 2 weeks, up to 4 weeks, where you can learn more about these, learn more about these strategies that I'm talking about. Danielle, do you mind if you stop share screen? I can put up a flyer. It is in English, I apologize. But this talks a little bit more about workshops that we have available for parents to go a little bit more in depth on these questions. So here's a phone number that you can call, 481-5483, and that could get you connected to workshops and groups for parents who have questions.
Stephanie, what was the name of it? You said Project Success?
So Project Success is mental health consultation in early care and education, so in child care centers. So you would ask your teacher or your child care director to see if you can get enrolled in Project Success. And then the workshops and the parenting groups I'm talking about are Incredible Years. And you can get to it through the number I just gave you.
Okay. That's great. That's great. I don't see any more questions nor anyone with raised hands. I do have one question though for you. So in terms of what advice you share? So we hear a lot, children now have the phones, have the games, all these distractions that now many times as parents, some folks might be challenged right now on how do we actually create a routine to reduce the hours that we have our children in front of a screen. So it doesn't matter what screen, it could be this small. But I think that in terms of regulation and everything that you just mentioned, I think that it's important to say that, how is it that we can set rules and create the routine of when to use the devices, and then why not use it as a consequence? It's just like, is it okay to say, well, I'm going to take away the use of the device, but then you go ahead and you don't keep with what you said, which was you're not going to use it again for whatever amount of time, because devices are the thing right now.
Absolutely.
So, yes.
Yeah.
That was a very complex. Oh, go ahead, Danielle.
I was going to say, I think Janet, you hit on so many important things, which is the rules are changing, right? I think screen time was used both because we needed to for virtual school for some kids, and practically speaking, when parents were working from home but kids were there, a screen is a way to keep a child occupied while you're trying to get things done. And now we're looking ahead to summer and we're saying, now I want to shift again. Now I want the rules to change, and that's okay. And we encourage that. And I think making screen time a reward in something we earn with good behavior and listening ears and kind words and following the rules can be a nice way to shift. And summer is a nice time, right? You come off of school, so the routine is changing anyway. So what a wonderful time to say, and because it's summertime, now we're shifting how we think about screen time. So you really need to earn it. And maybe you get a jar and you get some marbles, and every time a child has a good behavior, has a good day, does something positive, they earn marbles in the jar, and that might equal some screen time later. But it's okay as the parent to change the rules about screen time, even if during the school year you were allowing a lot of screen time. It's never too late to change the rules. And something else we talked about was sleep and the importance of disconnecting from screens before sleep, before the bedtime routine starts. So that's an easy place to start. If parents want to start now instead of waiting for the summertime, I think limiting screen time before bed might be a nice place to start. Reinvent your nighttime routine. Say after dinner, there's no screens. Or if there is, maybe we can all watch a short show together on the TV. And then for the next hour and a half before bedtime, no screens. That's a nice way to warm up to the idea of mom and dad or whoever's caregiving in the house.
Oh,
Nope. I guess I'll take it from where she is. So just to emphasize the point that Danielle is making, which is to do it slowly, to transition slowly and not go from 8 hours a day on a screen to no screen time at all. So gradually change your family's approach to screens. And I agree with her completely that they can earn screen time. But the trick to that goes back to something, Janet, you were saying about using screen time as a consequence. One thing that you want to make sure that you do is that you keep it clean. Either screen time is just something that you earn for good behavior, and the consequence for breaking a rule is you don't earn screen time. But if you do that, then you can't use screen time as a consequence, meaning you can't take away something that they've earned. So if you think about it, when you're using screen time as a consequence, that's assuming that they get it every day as long as they want, whenever they want. And so the consequence, it gets taken away from them. We want to shift that and say, you never get it unless you earn it. And you can earn more and more, but you have to do something to be able to earn it. And that helps you keep control over it, and it helps them motivate them. But never take away something that they earn.
that's great. Thank you so much. Danielle, I'm sorry. Something happened with the Wi-Fi and you froze. We're like, oh my God. So,
No problem. Thank you for picking up, Stephanie.
Sure. We sort of share a brain sometimes. So yeah, I just kept going.
okay. So thank you so much. We don't have anyone raise their hand or any more questions. Is there any last highlight or a last message that you would like to share with families as we end the school year and we're getting into summer, something to just, that they can just take away with?
I think it's important to just acknowledge something that Danielle said earlier, which is this is way easier said than done. And this is hard to do. And you're going to make mistakes, and nobody is perfect. There is no such thing as a perfect parent. And by being on this call, that's already a huge step in doing right by your kids, right? And so give yourself permission that you're not going to be perfect, and there's going to be bumps along the way. And don't try to do it all. Just maybe take one thing from the presentation that you would like to try and start there, and take care of yourself. Put on your oxygen mask first.
There you go. Okay, anything you would like to share, Danielle? Are you good?
No, I think that summed it up perfectly.
Very good. Okay. Thank you so much, ladies. The information was wonderful. It is recorded, so we will definitely make sure that we share out with other families that were not able to join us. So thank you so much, and be on the lookout or a message from me because we definitely want to invite you back. Okay. We do have a Google form that we will have families give us some feedback, and I'll share those with you. Okay.
Great. Thank you for the opportunity.
Thank you for
Of course.
having us.
Have a
Thank
good
you
night.
very much. You too. Bye bye. Hola a todos. Por favor, no se nos vayan. Please do not leave. We actually have one more thing for all of you. We have an activity. In this case, again, we have our giveaways. And so again, as I had mentioned earlier, we have several items. And we have 4 free packs of free admission tickets to Roger Williams Park Zoo, and also 3 $10 Walmart gift cards. So we are about to have you get started. If you can look on the chat, there is a link. Okay, if you can go in there and just click on the link and right away just start, completing that link, and don't forget to hit submit to record your responses. But we want everyone that's on the call right now to please make sure that you complete this Google form. It's very easy. Just click on the link that's in your screen right now. You see that we have a timer of 4 minutes. And we just want to make sure that we can hear from you. We want to know what you thought about this workshop. Stephanie and Danielle that were with us, they had great information. Again, we will have the video because we did record this. It is going to be available for the families. If you know of anyone that couldn't make tonight's workshop, to please let them know that it is recorded. And it's available on the website, but also in YouTube, the Providence Academy YouTube channel. And so again, just press the Google link that's on the screen right now. As soon as you click on it, it should open up, complete the questions, and then hit submit at the very bottom. I think there's only about 6 questions. So please make sure that you do that. We have 6 to 7 items to raffle off. So please stay on this call. We are going to get started in a few minutes calling out names of winners. And anyone that wins an item this evening, we are going to give you a call. As long as you completed the form does ask you for your phone number. So we will ask you to give us your phone number there so that we can call you right after, tomorrow to come in and actually pick up your prize. In the meantime, while we have 3 minutes, just very quickly reminding you of our last workshop for those of you who might have students in our English language learners programs. We know that they recently had to take a access test, which is their state test that again test their English abilities. And so for the next Parent Academy, it's on May 27th. We will be talking about the access scores that students received. And so we will be available, just making sure that we're sending akimbo messages or the text message to families that have students in the multilingual program in the district. And just a reminder for our families as well, just know that we have the grab and go meals. They're still happening at the different middle schools here in Providence. Again, they are on Tuesdays and Fridays. You can go and pick up these free meals between the hours of 2:30 and 4:30. Please make sure that you tell other families that may not be aware. We will have these grab and go meals available throughout the summer as well after school ends. So in the month of July and August. And so we just want to make sure that you know that we will have these grab and go meals over the summer, and they are still up and running Tuesdays and Thursdays right now up until the last day of school, which is right now scheduled for June 25th. So again, we just want to remind you, you are able to give us a call if you have any questions, any concerns. You can call our office, Family Community Engagement Office here in the district. Our phone number is 401-456-0686. If there's anything that you are looking to find out, you're not really sure about graduation dates in terms of high schools, anything about summer programming. And actually, I'm going to put the link, another link also on the chat of the, actually it's not here. So hold on, I'm sorry. What you would need to do to obtain information regarding the summer programs is actually go to our website, and you most likely have received a Kimball message or an email message regarding the summer programs that the district is offering for first grade through 12th grade. The summer programs, again, there is a deadline. The deadline is May 21st for folks to register. And also the summer program will be from July 6th through August 13th. The program will run between Monday and Thursdays, actually Monday through Thursday from 8:30 to 12:30. So if you're interested in having your child participate in the summer learning programs, please visit our website, or you can call our office and we can help you obtain the information. Our number again is 401-456-0686. So Natalie, are we good to go? Natalie?
Just 1 minute.
Okay, no problem. What I'm going to do is I'm going to write our phone number here of our office, 456 in the chat, 0686, just so that you all can have that phone number. Again, the district, we are available here to assist you with any questions that you might have, any concerns related to anything that has to do with a phone, with a concern at the school. I mean, obviously, we are always encouraging our families to please consult with their child's teacher or with the principal of any concerns that might be happening at the school level. But if for some reason, you're not comfortable, reaching out to anyone there at the building level, you can always call our office. And again, our phone number is 401-456-0686. And so as we get close to the school year, the end of the school year, we are asking families to pay attention to the different messages that you may be receiving, messages either via email or via text. We may be, again, announcing certain programs that are happening over the summer. And so we want to make sure that you do not lose the opportunity for just being informed about the different things that may be taking place this summer. So I believe we're ready now. If you can look at the screen, your name should appear if you completed the Google form. And so right now we're raffling off one of the 4 packs of the admission tickets, free admission tickets to Roger Williams Park Zoo. And so we will announce, as soon as it stops, we will announce the name of the winner. And again, as you can see, Esther is our first winner. Esther, we will give you a call tomorrow, as long as you gave us, again, your phone number. The next prize, again, is the free 4 tickets to the Park Zoo. And let's see who's the winner. Jocasta Nunez. Congratulations, Jocasta. We will give you a call. The next prize is a $10 Walmart gift card. And so we will see who's going to win this gift card. It looks like it's Alberto Reynoso. Again, Alberto, we will call you. We will call you tomorrow. The next prize is 4 free tickets to Roger Williams Park Zoo. So again, our next winner is Rosa Gonzalez. Congratulations, Rosa. The next prize is the $10 Walmart gift card. Again, we will call everyone tomorrow. So please make sure that you come and pick up your prize when we call you, okay? The next winner, again, the $10 Walmart gift card is Emer Martinez Marcia. Congratulations, Emer. The next prize is the 4 tickets to Roger Williams Park Zoo. And the winner is Evelia Samudio. Congratulations, Evelia. Again, expect a call tomorrow. And our final prize is the $10 Walmart gift card. And we have 2 people right now. Let's see who's going to be the winner. Okay, Dulce Benitez. Okay, congratulations, Dulce. Again, we will call everyone tomorrow. Thank you so much for staying on the call up until this time. We really appreciate it. Again, have a great evening and please expect the call to those of you who won the prizes. Have a good evening. Thank you. Thank you, Delia, for assisting us today.